Good morning, YouTube. Today I'm going to show you how to make an absolute culinary classic. We're going to go back to basics and make homemade beef broth. This stuff is simple, but it is unlike anything you could ever buy in a store and elevates your food like nothing else. All right, let's cook, y'all. We got a family to feed. All right, we're starting our beef broth. How do I get, oh, there we go. There we go. Ha! All right, so what I have over here is pretty simple stuff. This is really basic ingredients. So I have an onion that I just cut up into kind of wedges, right? I have about, I don't know, a small handful, 6 or 8 cloves of garlic, 2 carrots I just chunked up, and I didn't even bother to trim the end or to peel it, 2½ stalks of celery. This is a 2-pound chuck roast, okay? So this is the same stuff you would get if you're making a pot roast. And if you take a look at it, you've got several sections here. And then you've got 2 types of fat. You've got the fat that's in here, and you've got the hard fat right here that's more on the outside and in between a few of the muscles. So all I'm doing here, you don't want fat in your broth or your stock. Okay, so the less you put in there at the beginning, the less you have to worry about skimming. So I'm pulling this thing apart into the sections. And I'm not going to be crazy about this. Although I will say, if you're making this for somebody that has a delicate tummy, get crazy about it. Because you want that nice, clean, lean protein that you end up with in a really good homemade stock, but without the fat. And the fat can upset somebody's stomach. So if you're nursing an invalid, or you're wanting to really take care of somebody, go ahead and get crazy about trimming all the fat. So I'm going to take it down to about like this on all the sections. You do have this intramuscular fat. I'm not going to worry about that. Versus the intermuscular fat. And I'm just going to trim this all up into pieces. About like that. The sun's behind me. Dang it. Alright, so we've got our chuck roast cubed up. Got a couple other things here. Now, let's talk about broth and stock. Technically speaking, broth is a liquid in which meat has been simmered, and stock is what is done with bones. Well, it's a little difficult now to find beef bones. There are so many uses for them. The grocery stores have really stopped. You know, there was a time when I was younger, they'd just give them away. And then I noticed they went through a period of labeling them as dog bones and selling them that way, and now they're soup bones, and now I can't even find them. So, a couple things that you can do if you can't find beef bones, because I stopped at 2 stores and I was done. Alright, so this is carne asada. Okay, this is just a couple pounds, and it is beef that can be very tough. It has a lot of collagen and connective tissues in it, which are not great if you're just eating it, but it's lovely when you're making a broth, right? So you want those connective tissues to melt through, and they will. So we're throwing this on our sheet pan. This is just a couple of pounds. And this does have some fat. I'm not gonna bother cutting all the fat out of this. It will render. I'm gonna give this a couple of good stirs while it's in the oven. So carne asada, but what do we do if we don't have bones? Well, there's a couple things we can do. Get rid of that. One thing we can do are these. These are pork rib tips. And if you take a minute to actually look at it, you can see it actually is the tip. 1, 2, 3, part of a 4th, part of a 5th. Where they've just sliced off the tips from spare ribs, right? Now the nice thing about this is not too much fat, but they do have these lovely bones, right? So we're putting in a few of these because the bone is going to give us gelatin, and we're going to get a lot of collagen, and we're going to get a lot of nice rich flavor, but not too much. Oh, there's a piece of fat from the pork. All right, so if you've been following along as I'm making stock and broth, keep a scrap bag. This is all the fat that I trimmed off of the beef. I threw that one little tiny piece of pork in there. Because you know, nothing goes to waste in my kitchen, right? All right, and this is a couple of pork neck bones. I'm just tossing right on the top. Nothing goes to waste in my kitchen, and I'm going to come back and eventually I'm going to show you what to do with those. So be patient right now. Keep those in your freezer. All right, we are almost ready to go in the oven. I gave this just a little drizzle of olive oil, rather light. You don't want much. You don't want fat in your final product, so anything you add here, we're going to end up skimming off. So you don't want to make more work for yourself than you have to. And I also gave it a sprinkle of kosher salt. And this is what we look like ready to go in the oven. This is going to take about an hour, right? So at about half an hour, I'm going to come give everything a good stir and put it back in. So 425 degrees, 30 minutes, toss everything around, 30 minutes. We want nice and brown all over. So we've had 1 hour in the oven, 425, and our beef has browned up a lot. See this? And that's that neck bone, the pork neck bone. All right, so I'm gonna do a couple things real quick. I also have to be careful how I'm moving because we have a tiny baby kitten who's on my foot. Okay, we rescued him. He just showed up in the yard and he wasn't but 2.5, 3 weeks old. So I'm tilting my pan. I'm putting these underneath here. Kitten, that tickles. He was only 2.5, 3 weeks old and we had to bottle feed him for a couple weeks. All right, so I'm tilting my pan to let as much of the juice and the fat that would have rendered out of here. So I'm just giving this a little toss, get it moving. It's gonna come running down to this end, and that's fine. We are going to use that liquid, but I wanna make sure there's not too much fat in it before I throw it in my soup pot, stock pot. Now you can use, there's a variety of different pots. The one I like to use is a Dutch oven because it's got more surface area. The liquids will tend to evaporate a little bit better, okay? You can use a stock pot. They are taller and more thin. It's whatever you like. I like more surface area and less height. I feel like you get a better water to stock rate or water to ingredient ratio. You can always, look, you can always add water, right? But it is difficult once you've got everything in here. It's kind of difficult to simmer it down so it's nice and rich. I knew I was going somewhere with that. I just had to figure out where. The less water you have, the thicker and richer your broth, which means it's easier to store it with less volume. And like I said, you can add water if you want. Often I do. Hi, tiny baby. I hear you. Can y'all hear him? He's so little, it feels like he's 10 miles away, being all the way down at my feet. He's so tiny. And I'm about to start putting pictures of him up on Facebook. He's trying to climb my leg. I think he's precious and he's adorable. He's not beautiful. Shh, don't tell him. He looks a little bit like Maynard Krebs. Okay, now, here's the reason why I tilted this. There is a lot of liquid that gathered down here, and just from looking at it, I can tell that that's almost 100% fat, right? So, yes, I'm gonna capture it, I'm gonna drain it, saute some potatoes in that, it's delicious. That's fine, but I don't want it in my soup pot. So I'm not gonna put it in my stock pot. What I am gonna do is just barely cover this with water, and then we're gonna go over to the stove. Just wanted to show y'all that real quick. This is after half an hour. I'm gonna give it a good stir. But you see, we've already got a lot of nice color developing. And we've got a lot of juices that are released already. That's gonna help start forming our flavor base, y'all. All right, so stir this up. Let those veggies have some air time. Somebody's beeping me. All right, that's gonna go in for another 30 minutes. Woo, that's hot. All right, here we go. On the stove top, I hear you. I have a good big handful. That's a couple tablespoons of black peppercorns. Most of y'all would be perfectly happy with half of that amount. I promise. I just love it. All right, and I wish I had more fresh thyme. I don't, but I do have a bundle. It's about half of a package, a little blister pack kind of thing. And I have about half of a bunch of parsley. Now, if you're being very strict, you would throw all that in a piece of cheesecloth. It would be a bouquet garni. And the last thing I'm going to throw in is a couple of bay leaves. Little baby, he's a talker. Anybody that wants a kitten, send me a message. All right, 2 bay leaves. Can I get them out of there? Yes. 2 bay leaves right in the pot. Now, here's the thing about making stock. We put almost no effort into it. It does take a lot of patience. I have this coming up to a boil. No, I don't. You're never going to let it boil all the way. I have it coming up to a simmer. And then I'm going to turn it down as low as I can keep it while still getting a simmer. I'm going to let it just go. Probably 4 to 5 hours. Sometimes if you're a classic French chef making stocks, they can go for 12 to 24 hours, right? So, can you see, I don't know if y'all can see, the hints of fat starting to come up to the surface? It's one of the few things I'm going to do is I'm going to skim all those off. I'll show you more about it when there's a little more to see, but we're going to keep the fat off. All the particles that come up to the surface, we're going to skim those off. And other than that, we're going to let it just do its thing. All right, this has been simmering. You can see a little movement here. Wait a minute. So you see a little movement here, right? So this has only had about 10 or 15 minutes, and you can see all this foam. We're gonna get rid of that. That comes from the proteins coming out of the meat and the bones, and it just coagulates on the surface. And actually, it doesn't hurt anything. It can kind of makes the whole broth cloudy, and the flavor a little bit cloudy. But just kind of keep an eye out, and every once in a while, if you walk past, skim anything that might be coming up. We'll probably do that, I don't know, 3 or 4 times while this is simmering. And the thing about it is, as you're doing this, you're probably also going to capture fat that has come to the surface. Now, there's not a whole lot here. Kind of surprised. But as you're skimming, kind of keep an eye out. You'll see the fat pooling at the surface, and you get the fat the same way. That's all you got to do. Okay? Alright, this is ready to just go for a while. I'm going to give it, I want it on there at least 4 hours. Might do a little bit longer, depends on when Joey gets out of school. Alright, it's been a few hours, and as the broth simmered, you know, just barely moving, I skimmed it, and I don't know if you can see, I hope it shows up. Can you see how perfectly clear that is? Because the surface is there, but you can see straight down through. That's perfectly clear, and that's exactly what we want. Yeah, throw it in the dryer, honey. All right, so about 6 hours is what our beef stock has had, and here we go. That's what you're going to look like. So you can tell that those vegetables have kind of given it all up. You could let that keep going, but I went ahead and tasted it. It tastes great. So I feel like we're good. All right, so we're gonna strain this. You can use cheesecloth, you can use clean cotton, whatever you like. But we're gonna get all the solids out. And then underneath here, we're gathering up our beef broth. We finished straining our broth. So I have about 2 quarts, okay? And it's absolutely beautiful. Now, you have a couple things going on here. You have the meat, which I have stuck over here in this jar. Remember, we used carne asada and we used chuck roast, right? Both are cuts of meat that benefit from a long, slow, moist cooking process. So this is kind of the same texture and consistency as pot roast, which is exactly what I was looking for. See? It'll just pull apart. Now this will have given up a lot of its flavor, but not 100%. You can dice that up and use it in tacos or enchiladas or make dumplings. All of those are great ideas. You can even dice it up and use it in a beef pot pie. Okay, so take a look here. We've already gotten, I'd say, 98% of the fat. There is a very tiny, thin line of fat at the very top of here, which I don't know if y'all can see it, but this is pretty much ready to go. I'm not going to try to get that fat cap off of there tonight. Oh my Lord, y'all, that is the best stuff ever. I'm not going to try to get that off of there tonight. I'm going to put it in the refrigerator. It's going to chill, and that's going to solidify, and I'll just pop it off tomorrow. But after it is strained, wow, y'all, that tastes so good. This is now ready to use, okay? Exact same thing. It looks different color because of the vessel that it's in. But this beef broth is incredibly loaded with flavor. It is nutrient dense, it's super high in protein, almost non-existent in fat, and the flavor is what I keep harping on because that's what makes it so good. All right, so you can use this exactly like it is, or if you really want to take something to the next level, which I often do, you can take this and you can turn it into beef consommé. So some of this I'm going to use, but some of it I'm taking even higher. Hey YouTube, thanks for watching, and if you thought that video was helpful, do me a huge favor. Hit like, hit subscribe, hit the little bell so you get a notification whenever I post a new video. And if you have a second, hop on over to Patreon and check out how to support my channel even more. Again, thanks for watching.